You've pre-contemplated a change, you've contemplated a change, and you've decided to go for it. So the next stage is to prepare. So it's to move into the preparation stage. And as you may have guessed, the preparation stage is all about planning and preparing for your change. So I like to think of this like a roadmap. So we've got where we are at the moment, where we're trying to get to, what's the road in between, how are we going to get there, planning for roadblocks, diversions. So it's planning the whole picture. Now, a lot of people like to really rush through this stage or overlook it completely and they just dive straight in. But that is where people tend to fall flat on their faces. This stage is really important. So let's start mapping out your roadmap to success. So firstly, we want to have really clear in our minds what our goal is, what we are working towards. So you may have a vague idea, and last week we used the example of becoming healthier or losing some weight, changing our diets or our exercise habits. So here, let's say you have the goal of losing some weight. Well, what does that actually mean? Now, to some people, it will mean seeing a certain number on the scales, or on a measuring tape around their waist or on their clothes. But to other people, it will be more of a sense of, I want to feel happier with myself, I want to feel better in myself. So what we really need to figure out is, what does that mean? So if you were to feel happier about yourself, if your confidence levels to improve, how would you notice that? What would be different? How would your behavior change? If you want to have more energy, how would you notice that you have more energy? What things would you be doing that you aren't doing now? So it's getting our goal really clear in our mind, because if we don't have that clear, we won't know when we've reached it. And then we want to think about, what does that road look like between now and the goal? So how are you going to get there? What is going to keep you going? So this might be a lot about research. So what is it that you need in order to get to where you want? So for example, with a weight loss goal, how many calories a day roughly should you be consuming in order to reach a certain weight? How many calories, how much energy does your body need in order to keep going? So that's really important. In order for your body to be healthy, for you to be healthier, you need to be giving it a healthy amount of energy. So researching that, researching what vitamins and minerals we need. So it's a lot about where you're going to do these things, how you're going to do these things, with who you're going to do these things. So it may be planning out how many times a week you would like to exercise, when during the day you're going to do that, where you're going to do that. So looking into perhaps local gyms, how far away are they from you? What are their opening times? What else do they offer? Would you like personal training? What type of trainer would you like? Would you like anything from them outside of sessions? So it's really researching and really nailing down what it is that you need to do in order to get from here to there. And with any journey, it is rarely plain sailing, and there is going to be some sort of obstacles in the way. So what we really need to do is plan for roadblocks, roadworks, things that you need to divert around. So this we can also think of as triggers. So triggers for failure, triggers for self-destructive behavior. So if you know that after a particularly stressful day at work, you are much more likely to stop at the McDonald's that's on the way home and buy something for yourself as a way to cope with the day that you've had. So there are ways that you can try and divert around that situation. You can address what's causing such stressful days so that you don't have them. You can think of another way to cope with that, or you can think, I've had a really stressful day, so what I'm going to do is take a different route home so that I do not drive past the McDonald's. So it's planning for those triggers. It's knowing when it is that you're likely to fall back onto old habits, you're likely to do something that is going to impede on your goal and your wishes, and how you're going to divert around that situation. So lack of motivation here can be a really common obstacle or trigger point for people to failure. It's really difficult to stay motivated and to keep up sort of alien behaviours that we find difficult. So how are you going to plan for that? Are you going to write yourself a list of motivational quotes? Are you going to have descriptions of how you feel at the moment and the reason why you're making this change, all the things that you're not happy about? Are you going to have certain dates in mind that you are working towards and have them written down? Have pictures up somewhere, reminders? So how are you going to divert around the difficult moments? And it's also important to plan for the consequences of us being successful. So we often start a change process thinking everything will be great once I get to my goal. But it might not all be great. There is a reason that you are in the place that you're in, that you're engaging in the behavior that you're engaging in. And how is that going to be changed or replaced for you? So if you use food, or we can take smoking as an example, if you use smoking to help calm yourself after a difficult day, what are you going to do instead to calm yourself from a difficult day? Because essentially you are losing a well-established coping strategy. And we don't want to be left without any coping strategies. So how are you going to replace that coping strategy for something else? But there may be other consequences. So if you think about joining a gym or having personal training sessions, your finances may change. You may have less money available to you. And what impact is that going to have, and how are you going to plan for that? If you stop smoking, you may have more money available to you. So what are you going to do with that? Or it may be time. Maybe you spend every evening with your partner and you're now going to be out 3 evenings a week at an exercise class. So do you and your partner want to make up that time? Do you need to find another time during the week that you're going to spend together? So it's planning for those kind of unintended consequences, the things that we may not have considered when we've thought blindly about just reaching our goal. And at all times, be realistic. So don't plan to join a gym that you absolutely cannot afford to join. Only do things within your means, within your frame of reference. If you're trying to be too ambitious, do things too quickly, it's not going to work. So be realistic about what is going to work for you and what's not. So this roadmap idea can be translated into any change that it is that you're wanting to make. So it doesn't just have to be changing your diet or exercise patterns, your weight, smoking. It can be anything. It can be emotional changes. It can be wanting to go into therapy, and how are you going to do that? How are you going to be able to afford it? When are you going to go? What's going to happen on mornings that you wake up and you really don't feel like going? So it can be translated across to any change. So have a think about what your roadmap might look like. What are things like now? Where would you like them to be? What's the road in the middle? And what are going to be your potential roadblocks? And how do you divert round?